Go to the social media feed, look at our tweets on Gaza and such, and people are upset that Judicial Watch is having to still fight for this basic information. I was in court, again, as client for Judicial Watch, and Jim Peterson was representing us today. We're in federal court before Judge Reggie Walton, here in the District of Columbia. And across the room from us was a lawyer for the Trump administration, a federal government lawyer who came in and argued on behalf of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, why Judicial Watch and the American people shouldn't gain access to the details of a grant the USAID made to an entity in Gaza to the tune of $7 million and counting. They don't want to tell us the name, what the grant was for, what they were expected to do, who they were expected to help, none of those details. And this is a position first generated or created under the Biden administration last year when we first started asking for this record and suing for these records in court. And then just recently, the Trump administration ratifies it by saying, oh yeah, this is our legal position. We can't get information about who they're helping in Gaza. Now, what is our concern about that? It's because USAID money and humanitarian money generally from the West, it's notoriously everyone who's been watching the situation, has any expertise in the area, knows that that money goes to help Hamas and terrorists generally. Now, does it mean it doesn't help some people? Of course it helps some people. They're spending so much darn money, but it empowers, enables, and usually benefits the terrorists as well. I guarantee you that's the reason we can't get the info. And they come up with these new reasons. There's always a new reason not to get information out of this gang. And I'm disappointed that Pam Bondi's Justice Department and Marco Rubio's State Department has a lawyer in court arguing against us. I mean, come on. I mean, it's one thing to be arguing in the Biden administration over this. I can't believe we're doing this now. Man, I'm so angry I can't even read the paper I got. Ex-USAID official says Biden ditched vetting reforms as his administration steered grants to terrorist supporters. That's from the Free Beacon. Testified to Congress. I approve strong vetting policies for humanitarian assistance in countries swarming with terrorists. That too was ignored by the Biden administration, said this former USAID official. He added that vast sums of U.S. money have been diverted to fund terrorists in Gaza, Syria, Yemen, and Afghanistan. And NGOs have been hit with heavy fines for violating our anti-terrorism financing laws. And so they come up with new excuses to cover up what I believe is likely what happened is that they gave a $7 million grant plus upwards of $20 million, $24 million, depending on how you count the numbers, to these Gaza recipients with little or no check as to what they were doing with it. Heck, the reason they don't want to tell us, here's the press release. Judicial Watch, USAID won't reveal aid recipients in Gaza. Marco Rubio, what's going on? You're now running USAID. Why are you allowing this to take place? Pam Bondi, you're running FOIA. You set the FOIA legal positions for the federal government. Your attorneys in the Justice Department, U.S. Attorney for D.C., they're defending the indefensible, coming up with new arguments to keep the American people from finding out what Biden was doing in Gaza. So they produced the records, USAID, but they just don't want to tell us any detail about where the money went to or who it went to. We go to the first batch, because you can see it better maybe in the first batch. Go to page 2. Page 2 of 99 in the document batch. You see this? Acknowledge. That's the person who signed it. B6, privacy. See what else we got here. Go to page 21 of 99 in the PDF. Overhead management. They don't even want to tell us what the costs were for overhead. Okay, now go down further to page 35, 34 of the document. This is where the rubber meets the road in terms of information. All of this is basic information about who's being helped, who's the money being directed to, what's it being directed for. Let's go down one page. All of that, all of this is blacked out. Now, the government's very smart. There's $7 million. That's the initial outlay. They don't want to tell us anything. Total number of people affected in the target area, B4. Total number of unique people targeted, B4. How is that a secret? B4 is commercial secrets. These are nonprofits receiving money. What's the commercially protected information in a grant for charitable activity in a war zone? And this is the excuse they're using. They gave us what's known as a Vaugh Index. A Vaugh Index is a name given to what's called a privilege log, which lists the documents or lists the reasons, and it's designed to provide information to a requester for information as to what records they're withholding and why. So because we can't, they obviously, if they want to withhold records, they can't give us the records and then say you can't read them. That's not going to happen. So they have to give us some information so we can argue about it. And this is what they say. Parties to the conflict in Gaza have specifically targeted and killed aid workers, targeted relief agency operations, and targeted and destroyed health facilities and other civilian targets. Due to highly challenging and unpredictable operating environments for humanitarian operations, the exemption is required to protect the employees and beneficiaries of the NGOs working in Gaza from the harassment and violence. Disclosure of the name of the NGO would allow third parties to determine the identities of employees and beneficiaries. So they could give $1 trillion to Gaza. And under that new rule, which has never been imposed on any FOIA requester as best we can understand it, we've got a lot of experience, 30 plus years of doing FOIA. There's no one with more experience in this town than your Judicial Watch. USAID is saying we can't find out who they're giving money to in Gaza. Now, if that makes no sense to you, I'll explain to you what the reason is. When something doesn't make any sense in a government situation, it's almost always politics. So the Biden administration realized, oh my gosh, this is what I'm speculating based on my experience. The Biden administration realized, oh, we're going to get caught giving money to terrorist-related groups. So let's come up with a reason to hide the recipient. And for whatever, the Trump administration took the argument and is running with it and was arguing for that position in federal court today. So forgive me for being a little upset when the Trump Justice Department and State Department come in and argue for this outrageous secrecy. And I guarantee you, President Trump, if he knew, he'd be outraged. He'd be as outraged as I am. Rubio, would he be as outraged as I am? I think so. Pam Bondi would probably agree with me. And as far as I'm concerned, but people say, well, how can they know that? Well, they're supposed to know what's happening. Rubio and Bondi know, or should know what's happening. Secretary Rubio is now, I think, the acting head of USAID, practically speaking. And FOIA is a big deal. Certainly Pam Bondi knows FOIA. She's been involved in a FOIA controversy over Epstein. And it's not like we're not talking about it. I mean, I've been talking about this on social media, and Judicial Watch has, for weeks, if not months. I mean, go to the social media feed, look at our tweets on Gaza and such, and people are upset that Judicial Watch is having to still fight for this basic information. Now, Judge Walton, he said he was perplexed by the government's position, citing commercial secrecy and privacy to hide information about who's getting money in Gaza. Never before used to keep this type of information from the American people, as I say, as best we can tell. And then, of course, then you have to fight about how much longer we want to fight about it. The government wanted to fight about it for 2 extra months. And we said, come on, we've been fighting about it for months. You wouldn't even come to an agreement with us about getting a schedule in place that allows us to vet these issues before the court. And now you come in and now you say you want an extra 2 months. So the court pared back the request. So it's going to be at least 2 more months before the litigation, these issues are fully briefed. But of course, what can happen in the meantime is that they can just release the information. Who are you giving money to? What are they doing with it? What's it for? It's not a state secret. So we get all these documents, right? Look at all these documents. And no information. Unacceptable. So I'll keep you updated. Hopefully the Trump administration changes its mind and releases this information and stops wasting our time, our resources, and the government's time and resources defending the indefensible. And if not, we'll just keep on battling in court to get the transparency about a Biden administration scandal that is now being defended by the Trump administration. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.